Podcasts aren't a bubble, they're a boom. And that boom is only getting louder. Miranda Katz. I owe a lot of my knowledge today to the dawn of podcasting. In a bus, in a train, in a car, spending hours a week just listening to inspiring interviews of some of the most successful people on earth, available free of charge. It's so cool to me that through podcasting, we can understand through a simple conversation the mind, the intention, the strategies of some of the brightest people on earth. But even more interesting is the host who is able to facilitate these incredible conversations, which is exactly why in this week's episode of MasterTalk, I'm going to teach you 3 powerful lessons that I learned from podcast hosts that apply to every single presentation. Hi everyone, Brendan here from MasterTalk on your go-to channel to mastering your talk. And today we're talking about the art of podcasting and how to master it. So let's get into it. Number 1, the best quality shows often stem from an incredible amount of research. The top 1% podcast hosts in the world share one important quality, which is the level of preparation that they bring to their interviews and the guests that they bring on the show. One example of this is Sean Evans, the host of the very popular YouTube channel, The Hot Ones, where he interviews celebrities and A-listers through a journey of spicy chicken wings. So it's quite the show. But what I love about Sean is how thoughtful his questions are long before the show even begins. And I'll give you an example of this. When he interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk, the CEO of VaynerMedia, they're sitting across from each other. Instead of asking the typical, hey, when are you gonna buy the New York Jets? Or what do you do for a living? He goes, here's $15. And then Gary V is a little bit confused, like, why is this guy giving me $15? And Sean says, here's a matrix with a bunch of different celebrities, A-listers, B-listers, C-listers. And I want you to spend these $15 to allocate and get the maximum amount of reach as possible from an audience perspective. And Gary gets really excited. He's like, I've definitely never been asked this question. So he sits down and he goes, oh, I wish I had $3 for this. Oh, I wish I had $4 for this. But the point I want to drive is the level of preparation that Sean and his team had for Gary's appearance. And frankly, for every guest who comes on the show. How do we bring that same level of practicality, that same level of detail into the people that we lead and the people that we serve? That's why I encourage all of you to think about who is that one person that you want to help through your ideas, through your business, through your coaching, and ask yourself, when was the last time I had dinner with them? I should ask them, what are their dreams? What do they aspire to be? What are some of the barriers that are preventing them from achieving so-and-so? So in my case, it's what are the barriers that are preventing them from being an exceptional communicator? What's stopping them? What are some of the challenges that they're facing? And I would have hour-long dinners with all of these different types of people. And that's the competitive advantage. When you have those insights and you go the extra mile that nobody else is willing to go, you get the lessons that nobody else gets, and you make your content 100 times better in the process. Number 2, speak to your audience as if you already know them. World-class podcast hosts have an incredible ability at sharing space with the guests that they bring on, and it encourages them to share openly and vulnerably their ideas to the world. Lewis Howes is a fantastic example of this. He's the host of the School of Greatness podcast, a top 100 podcast in the world, and he intentionally puts himself in front of the guests so they're always looking at each other eye to eye. And this creates a level of presence and authenticity that other podcast hosts aren't able to get out of it. The lesson, though, is to adapt our energy levels to the different types of people that we speak to. When Joe Rogan had Elon Musk on the show, he obviously had a lot of practice beforehand when he started the podcast and invited primarily his buddies who are stand-up comedians. So when he got to a guest like Elon Musk, because Elon's very introverted and isn't that great of a communicator, Joe is able to quickly weave and speak in a way that makes him feel comfortable. So I would encourage you to do the same thing so that you can create incredible spaces with the people you speak to. Start with people that you already love having discussions with and get better at talking, discussing, asking powerful questions, and then level up outside of your circle over time. And finally, number 3, the experience is just as important as the performance. Going back to Lewis Howes, one of the tips that he shared is that the pre-show is the show, meaning that the 3-minute conversation before the interview even begins is the actual interview. Because if Lewis doesn't build a great relationship with the guest, that 2-hour podcast is going to be long, dreary, and really bad. That's why it's important for us to not just think about the actual game that we're playing, but the experience outside of that game. If you present and give a speech, it's not just what you give in the content, it's also how do you answer questions when it's over? When people come up to you and say, hey, great presentation, I had a question. How are you answering them? How are you reacting to them? What level of preparation are you doing before the show begins, before your speech begins? Same piece around the eye contact where Lewis sits in front of his guests to really go deep really quickly with them. That's really the key to being a master communicator, not just a podcast host, is being mindful of the little nuances, the little details of communication that nobody else is thinking about. Because if you're the person who is obsessive of those details, you will get the results that most people in your industry won't even think to get. Podcasts aren't a bubble, they're a boom. And that boom is only getting louder. Miranda Katz is absolutely right on this because there's only 2.7 million podcasts as of this recording, but only 400,000 of them are active. And that's compared to over 1 billion with a B of YouTube channels that were created as of today as well. And that's really the key, is it's not just about podcasting or hosting a show. It's your own ideas. Because I would argue that in sharing your ideas, you're also still in the early stages. You're undervaluing your own potential that you can share with the world. So I encourage you to take that first step. Because you know what all those podcast hosts have in common? Is that they all sucked. Their first episodes reeked. They were terrible. They had no idea how to interview people. Lewis's first episode was in a gym after, not before, after he worked out with the guy. They were sweaty and he just turned on his iPhone. That's how he started his podcast. But you can too. All it takes is a phone and a dream. And if you have that dream, you have that intention, you'll figure out everything that you need to be successful. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of MasterTalk, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well to see more videos like this. And of course, I encourage all of you to come to my next free communication training over Zoom. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see you there. The link is in the description below. And of course, if you know one person who loves podcasting, be sure to share this video with them so that they'll be one step closer to mastering their talk. See you next time.